So, here's the deal. I'm a 28-year-old guy named Jason, and the woman I used to love, well, let's call her Sarah, was once my whole world. I mean, I had dreams of growing old with her, building a family, everything. We were young, in love, and full of hope. At least, that's how it seemed at the time. We had a kid together, a little girl named Lily. She was the apple of my eye, the reason I woke up with purpose every day. But then, everything fell apart. The relationship started crumbling, like sand slipping through your fingers, and it wasn't long before we split up. The breakup wasn't clean. It was messy. It was full of late-night arguments, half-truths, and a lot of tears. But I didn't care. As long as I had my daughter, I'd be fine. Or so I thought. Fast forward a couple of months. Life's moving on. I'm doing my best to co-parent with Sarah, keeping it civil for Lily's sake, you know? Then, one day, Sarah says something that completely shatters my world. She claims that Lily might not be mine. Let me give you a second to let that sink in. My daughter. The one I'd raised, the one I'd held in my arms the night she was born, the one who called me daddy every day for the last 3 years, wasn't mine? I didn't know how to react. At first, I thought she was just angry, throwing out accusations in the heat of the moment. But no! This wasn't a random outburst. She was serious. And it made no sense. I've seen her grow. I've cared for her. This had to be a lie. But Sarah was so convinced, so cold and calculating when she said it. She even went as far as suggesting that I should get a paternity test, like it was just some routine thing. Like it wasn't tearing me apart. I won't lie. The thought gnawed at me. But I dismissed it at first. It didn't make sense. I trusted my instincts, my connection with Lily. I mean, she looked just like me, didn't she? The same nose, the same goofy grin, the same laugh. How could that not be enough proof? But then Sarah started pushing. She'd bring it up in every conversation, always in a calm, almost too precise way. She started to subtly plant doubt. "Are you sure she's yours, Jason?" she'd say, staring at me like she knew something I didn't. "Maybe it's time you took a test. It'll clear up everything." And every time, I brushed it off. But it started wearing me down. It started messing with my head. I found myself questioning everything, our past, our future, the moments I'd cherished with Lily. Was I really her father? Or was I just another guy who happened to be around? I couldn't just ignore it. But I also didn't want to give her the satisfaction of proving her right. But here's where it all took a turn. Sarah wasn't backing down. She made it clear that she wouldn't let me see Lily unless I agreed to take a paternity test. She said it was the only way for me to prove I was her father. And that's when the tension hit the breaking point. You see, I could have just let it go, accepted it, and gone on with my life. But the thing is, Sarah wasn't just trying to push me around. She was trying to erase my bond with my daughter. And I wasn't having it. I've always been the kind of guy to stand up for what I believe in, even if it means making tough decisions. So, I decided to take her up on it. I agreed to the test, thinking, if she's trying to tear me apart, I'll show her just how far I'll go to fight for my daughter. I scheduled the test and braced myself for what was about to come. But what I didn't expect was the way everything would spiral after that. I had no idea what I was walking into. The moment I agreed to the test, everything shifted. Sarah became colder, distant, almost smug. It was like she had a secret weapon she was just waiting to unleash, and she knew I had no idea what I was really getting into. Meanwhile, I kept trying to stay calm, but deep down, I felt that growing pit in my stomach. This wasn't just about proving paternity anymore, it was about something bigger. Something that was going to shake everything I thought I knew about myself, about Sarah, and most importantly, about Lily. The date for the test came, and I showed up with every ounce of strength I had left. But what happened after that was beyond anything I could have prepared for. The test results were just the beginning. And trust me when I say, they didn't just change everything. I couldn't have predicted how much they would destroy me. The day the test results came back, I couldn't breathe. I was sitting in my car, the envelope on the passenger seat like some ticking bomb. I had to pull over, I couldn't drive. I knew, in the pit of my stomach, that something was off. I kept telling myself it was all going to be fine. Of course, Lily was mine. I knew it. But then, the reality started creeping in. The doubts Sarah had planted, they weren't just thoughts anymore. They were shadows lurking in every corner of my mind. What if she's right? I whispered to myself, even though I hated the question. But the what-ifs were louder now. So, I tore open the envelope. My hands were shaking, but I read every word. I was hit with the news like a punch to the gut. The paternity test results confirmed Jason is not the biological father of Lily. It was like my heart stopped. For a second, I couldn't move. Couldn't think. It didn't even feel real. I had to read it again, slower this time, to make sure my brain was processing the words correctly. But no, it was there, plain as day. And I couldn't escape it. I wasn't Lily's father. I felt numb. My mind was racing, but my body stayed frozen. I mean, I had to be. She was mine. Everything about her screamed me. So why, how, was this happening? I must have sat there for a good 20 minutes, staring at the paper in disbelief. I wanted to tear it up, throw it out the window. But I couldn't. It felt like that piece of paper was the only connection to the truth, to something I didn't want to admit. I finally pulled myself together and drove to Sarah's place. It wasn't even about talking to her anymore. I needed answers. I needed to know how this could have happened. Who else was involved? What did she know? When I got there, Sarah was standing at the door with that same smug expression she'd had ever since I agreed to the test. She already knew. I could see it in her eyes. She didn't even need to say anything. I just handed her the envelope. She opened it, casually, as if she didn't know exactly what was inside. The second her eyes scanned the paper, her face went blank. But not for long. A twisted little smile spread across her lips. "Well," she said, her voice cold, almost clinical, "I guess you got your answer." And that's when the anger started building inside me. Not the righteous, indignant kind of anger. It was something darker. It was the kind of anger that came from betrayal. From realizing that everything I'd built, the trust, the family, the life I thought I knew, was a lie. And Sarah? She knew that all along. "Tell me," I spat, trying to keep my voice steady but failing, "what the hell is going on? Who else could be her father, Sarah?" "Who?" She didn't flinch. Just took a step back and folded her arms. "It doesn't matter now, does it?" she said. "You've got the proof." I wanted to scream, to shake her until she told me everything. But something about her, something in the way she said it, told me she wasn't going to be the one to break. "I want to know the truth," I said, through gritted teeth. "Did you cheat on me? Is that it? Was I just some fool who didn't matter to you?" My mind was spinning, searching for an answer, for something to cling to, but nothing made sense. It was all a blur of accusations, heartbreak, and fury. Sarah's expression softened, just for a second. "You think I'm the only one who's been hurt in all this?" she said, her voice quieter now. "Maybe I'm just the one who's had the guts to face it. You wanted to play house with your perfect little family, but sometimes things aren't what we think they are, Jason. You don't know what it's like to carry this kind of secret. My chest tightened. What secret? What are you talking about? She paused for a long moment before speaking again, this time with more conviction. You wouldn't understand. But it's over now. I'm not the one who needs to prove anything. She turned away and walked inside without another word. I stood there, stunned. I didn't even know what to do next. It felt like the floor had just dropped out from under me. Everything I thought I knew about Sarah, about Lily, was crumbling. And I was left standing in the rubble, trying to make sense of it all. And then there was the fact that Lily wasn't mine. She was, wasn't she? She had to be. But the truth was staring me right in the face, and there was no escaping it. No matter how much I wanted to deny it, the test results were real. The more I thought about it, the more I began to question everything. Was this all some game to Sarah? Some kind of revenge? Or was there something deeper, something I was missing? The problem was, I had no idea where to start looking. Every time I thought I had a grip on what was happening, the ground beneath me shifted. And now, the only thing I could do was face the fallout. There was no going back. The truth was out there, waiting for me, and I had no choice but to figure out how I'd handle it. Days passed after that bombshell of a conversation, but it felt like the whole world had just shifted on its axis. I couldn't shake the thought. I mean, yeah, I'd gotten the test results, but nothing about it felt final. It felt like there was more to it, like some piece of the puzzle was missing. And Sarah? She was being as tight-lipped as ever, refusing to even look me in the eye when we exchanged custody of Lily. But Lily, my girl, she was still the same. She didn't know any of this, didn't even understand what was happening. She just smiled at me, her little hands reaching up for a hug, like everything was fine. And in a way, it was almost worse. Because how could I look at her, knowing what I knew, and pretend everything was fine when I wasn't even sure if she was mine? I spent the next few days a mess, torn between wanting to throw myself into figuring it out, and just sitting in my apartment, staring at the walls, too overwhelmed to think straight. My mind kept circling back to one thing: who was her father? Who was the man who had taken my place, who had taken something that I thought was mine? And why the hell hadn't Sarah told me the truth? I tried calling her a few times, sending messages, even showing up at her door unannounced. Each time, she was either not there, or she'd just shut the door in my face. It felt like I was chasing a ghost, desperately trying to grab hold of something that was slipping through my fingers. It wasn't long before I started feeling the strain. I mean, there was the obvious, the doubt, the betrayal. But there was also the part of me that wondered if maybe, just maybe, I was better off not knowing the truth. Maybe it would have been easier to just accept it and move on. But I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this wasn't over. And that's when things got even messy, eh? One night, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I hesitated for a second, thinking it might be Sarah or some solicitor trying to stir the pot even more. But I answered anyway. "Hello?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Jason?" A woman's voice replied. "This is Emily. I know this is going to sound strange, but I think you need to hear something." My pulse started racing. Who the hell was Emily, and what did she have to do with any of this? "Sorry, but do I know you?" I asked, a bit confused. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was tinged with something I couldn't quite place. Guilt, maybe? "I've been trying to reach you for a while. I'm not sure how to say this, but I think I'm the one you need to talk to. About Lily." My stomach dropped. "What the hell do you mean, about Lily? Who are you?" "Look, just hear me out, okay? I've got information about Sarah." "About Lily," she said, her voice cracking. "It's not what you think. I know this might sound insane, but I think you need to know. I didn't even know how to respond. My mind was racing. Why was someone else calling me out of the blue about my daughter? Was this some sort of prank? Or worse, was this another one of Sarah's attempts to manipulate me? I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. All right, talk to me. What's going on? I used to be close with Sarah, Emily began, her voice shaky. We worked together a few years ago, and we were pretty close. And I've been hearing things, seeing things, that I don't think you know about. Things that, honestly, I don't know how to tell you. At that moment, I felt a chill run through me. Just spit it out. What are you telling me? Emily hesitated again, then exhaled. Lily. She's not Sarah's daughter either. Not biologically. The truth is, Sarah had an affair, more than one, actually. And I think she's been hiding something. I think Lily's father is someone you know. Someone close to you. I felt the blood drain from my face. My head was spinning. Was she talking about some kind of sick joke? How could this possibly be true? I wanted to hang up, to throw my phone across the room, but I couldn't. Something told me Emily wasn't lying. She was too shaky. Too honest sounding. Who is it? I managed to ask, barely able to breathe. Who's the father? I can't tell you everything right now, Emily said. But you need to get in touch with me in person. You need to see this for yourself. There's so much you don't know, Jason. And if you want answers, you need to be ready for everything. The line went dead. I sat there, stunned, my hands trembling. For the first time, I felt like I was really out of control of my own life. First, Sarah had ripped everything from me by suggesting that I wasn't Lily's father. Now, Emily, whoever she was telling me that everything I'd known about Sarah and Lily was a lie. And that truth? It was going to destroy me. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't back down now. There was no running from this. I had to go to Emily. I had to find out what the hell was really going on. No more half-truths. No more games. The time for pretending was over. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I might not be prepared for what was about to unfold. The day I finally met Emily felt like something straight out of a movie. I was nervous, sure, but honestly, I was more pissed than anything. I needed answers, and here I was, about to meet some stranger who claimed to know all these things about Sarah, about Lily, about everything that had been ripped from me. The cafe Emily suggested was on the edge of town, away from the usual bustle. It was quiet, and I liked that. I needed calm right now. Walking in, I spotted her right away. She was sitting by the window, looking almost too calm. I didn't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this. She was ordinary, just a woman in her late 20s, sipping on a coffee and staring out the window like she was lost in thought. I sat down without saying much, trying not to let my frustration boil over. So, you've got something to tell me about Sarah, huh? Emily looked at me, her eyes filled with something I couldn't place. Sympathy, maybe. I know this is hard to hear, Jason. But I'm telling you because you deserve to know. You need to know. She pulled out a small, worn notebook from her bag, flipping it open and sliding it across the table. I could see scribbled notes on the pages, a mix of dates, names, and numbers that meant nothing to me. But there was one name I did recognize. My heart sank. Sarah. I muttered. Emily nodded. Sarah had an affair. More than one, actually, but the one that matters, the one that involves Lily, it's someone you know. I leaned back, trying to keep my cool, but I felt like the walls were closing in on me. Who? I forced out. Who's the father? Emily hesitated. I could see the weight of whatever she was about to drop on me. It's Ben, she said quietly. Ben? My mind went blank. Ben was my best friend. He'd been my ride or die for years. We'd partied together, laughed together, talked about everything. He was the guy who'd been there through thick and thin. And now, he was the one who had crossed a line that I never saw coming. It felt like someone had slapped me across the face. The room spun, and for a moment, I thought I was going to lose it. How could this be? How could Ben, of all people, betray me like this? I shot to my feet, my heart racing, my hands shaking. You're lying, I growled, my voice barely holding together. This isn't true. It can't be. Emily remained calm, her eyes steady. It's true. I'm sorry, Jason. I wish it wasn't, but I saw them together. Sarah and Ben. And I know they didn't just meet once. They'd been seeing each other for a while. And the worst part? She didn't even tell you. She didn't tell you that Lily might not even be your daughter. The words felt like ice water, freezing me in place. My mind couldn't process it. Ben and Sarah? Together? How long had this been going on? How could either of them betray me like this? I sank back into my seat, the weight of the world pressing down on me. I couldn't even look at Emily anymore. All I could think about was the years I'd spent trusting both of them. The countless hours spent laughing with Ben, the deep conversations we had about life, about family, about everything. How could you do this to me? Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and disbelief. I didn't know how, Emily admitted. I knew I had to say something, but I didn't want to be the one to ruin everything. And I figured you had a right to know. But I didn't think it would break you like this. I closed my eyes, rubbing my face. I needed a minute. I needed to think. This wasn't just a betrayal of trust, it was everything. The family I thought I had, the daughter I thought was mine, was all built on lies. I couldn't even look at Lily without wondering if she was truly mine. But something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the realization that this wasn't just a situation I could back out of. Maybe it was the thought of all those years wasted. But I wasn't going to sit there and let Sarah and Ben win. I wasn't going to let them get away with destroying everything I'd worked for. Where's Ben now? I asked through clenched teeth. Emily swallowed hard. I think he's at Sarah's place. He's been coming and going for a while, Jason. And he's been there, you know, for the last couple of days. My stomach churned. I couldn't stay calm anymore. I stood up so fast the chair nearly tipped over. I'm done, I said, my voice thick with fury. I'm done letting these people mess with my life. I'm going to make sure everyone knows the truth. Emily didn't try to stop me. She didn't even say another word. She knew there was nothing left to say. I stormed out of the cafe, my mind running at full speed. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let Ben and Sarah get away with this. I wasn't going to let them destroy my family, my trust, my life. And if it meant burning everything to the ground, so be it. The drive to Sarah's place felt like it took forever. My hands gripped the wheel, my thoughts a jumbled mess of anger, confusion, and pain. I couldn't shake the image of Ben, my best friend, walking through that door, holding Lily in his arms like he had a right to be there. Like he was her father. I parked outside her apartment and sat there for a moment, gathering myself. My whole body was tense, and the adrenaline was coursing through me. This wasn't just about confronting Sarah. It was about reclaiming what was mine. I didn't know exactly what I was going to say, but I knew one thing: I couldn't let this go. I had to stand up for myself, for Lily, even if she wasn't mine by blood. I walked up to her door, and my heart started pounding in my chest. The moment I rang the doorbell, I could hear footsteps inside, slow and deliberate. Sarah opened the door, her face going pale when she saw me standing there. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice cool but trembling just a little. "You knew, didn't you?" I said, not even trying to hide the anger in my voice. "You knew Ben was the father. You knew all along." Her eyes flickered with something I couldn't read, but she didn't deny it. She didn't even try to explain. She just stepped aside, letting me into the apartment. "Come on in," she said, almost mockingly, her voice like ice. "You want to talk? Let's talk." I walked in and saw Ben sitting on the couch. His eyes widened when he saw me, and for a second, he looked like he might try to say something, anything, to explain. But he didn't. Instead, he just stared at me, his face flushed, his jaw tight. "Is this true?" I asked, keeping my voice as steady as I could. "Is Lily yours?" Ben didn't answer right away. He looked at Sarah, like he was waiting for her to speak. But she just stood there, arms crossed, watching me like I was the one who was wrong. "I didn't think you'd ever find out," Ben finally said, his voice low and reluctant. "But yeah, I'm the father." I couldn't breathe. The words hit me harder than anything else. Ben, the guy I trusted more than anyone, had betrayed me in a way I never saw coming. It was like the whole foundation of my world had just cracked wide open. I didn't know how to process it. "You did this behind my back," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "How could you?" Ben shifted uncomfortably, but there was no real remorse in his eyes. He didn't look guilty. He didn't even look ashamed. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," he muttered. "It just did." I shook my head, feeling the anger surge through me again. "You slept with my ex. You got her pregnant. And you didn't even have the decency to tell me. How long did this go on? How long were you two together?" Sarah stepped forward, cutting Ben off before he could say anything else. "It's not what you think, Jason. I never wanted you to find out like this. I didn't want to hurt you." I couldn't stop myself from laughing bitterly. "You didn't want to hurt me? What? By hiding the truth about my own daughter?" "I didn't know how to tell you," she continued, her voice softer now, but it didn't sound like real regret. More like a rehearsed excuse. "You were so involved with Lily. And Ben, he just came around at the right time. It wasn't planned. You think that makes it better?" I shot back. "You think that makes any of this better? This whole time, you let me believe that I was Lily's dad, and now you just expect me to accept it?" Sarah looked away, clearly uncomfortable. But Ben didn't flinch. He just kept staring at the floor like it didn't matter. Like none of it mattered. The silence between us was suffocating. I didn't know what to say next. I had so many questions, so much rage building up inside of me. But I also realized something. No matter how much they tried to explain, no matter how much they justified their actions, it didn't change what had happened. I wasn't Lily's father. And that was the hardest pill to swallow. I turned away from both of them, not sure what to feel anymore. All I knew was that I couldn't stay in this place, surrounded by the people who had betrayed me. The people who had taken something I couldn't get back. "I'm done," I said, my voice low and final. "You two can do whatever you want, but I'm done." I walked out, not bothering to look back. The door slammed behind me, but the weight of everything that had just happened was still crushing me. I didn't know what came next, or how I would even begin to process everything. But I knew this: I wasn't going to let them define who I was. I wasn't going to let this lie destroy me. As I drove away, I felt a sense of finality. I was done with Sarah. I was done with Ben. And I was done with the past. But what about Lily? I wasn't sure what my role in her life would be now. But one thing was for sure, no matter what the test said, no matter who her biological father was, I wasn't walking away from her. She deserved to know the truth. And whatever that truth turned out to be, I would be there for her. Even if I had to rebuild everything from scratch. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe again.